There are a lot of natural consequences associated with dishonesty. It's really helpful to point those out to your kids. Again, state the obvious. Even if you think they know, don't assume that they know what those consequences are. Go ahead and speak them out loud, and then it opens up a conversation and it gives you an opportunity to talk through what you can do to maybe resolve some of those concerns. One of the natural consequences in a relationship to lying is the damaged trust. It is really important to speak that out to a child. Don't assume that your kid knows what that damage looks like and how it impacts your relationship. So go ahead and have a direct conversation about that. It is important for your child to know how the damaged trust affects your relationship. People might be leery to trust your child in the future when they know that your kid has lied. That's fine to address. It's actually important for your child to recognize that. Try to avoid making statements like, "I can never trust you again," or "I don't believe anything that you say anymore." It's important to address the broken trust so that you guys can talk about how to rebuild the trust. So again, acknowledge the broken trust and the impact of the lying on the relationship, and then immediately you can start talking about what your child can do to rebuild that trust, to reestablish it. It's not going to be immediate, and it's okay to tell your child it's going to take time. There are natural consequences that a lot of times we don't address with our kids, but it's really helpful to point out to them. Help them recognize the emotions that they experienced when they were caught in the lie, and maybe even before that when they were carrying the lie around. Carrying lies is weighty. It feels heavy. It can be a very lonely experience. They can feel isolated. So help your child recognize any emotions like that they experienced when they were carrying the lie, because that's part of what's going to keep them from lying again in the future. You can also talk about how they felt when they got caught. They may have felt things like guilt and shame. Now, you don't want to reinforce that. You want to acknowledge and name the emotions that they felt without adding more weight to it. So if they're feeling guilt and shame about having lied, absolutely acknowledge those feelings and talk about what that feels like to them. You don't need to add or pile on more to that. Trust that your child is reaping the consequences of those heavy emotions, and again, work toward how to resolve those and how to help them feel differently by engaging in appropriate behaviors in the future. Now, in the same way that we address natural consequences for inappropriate behaviors, it's really important to acknowledge the consequences of appropriate behaviors. So instead of just talking about what it feels like when they lie or get caught in a lie, you can also talk about what it feels like when they tell the truth and celebrate that. You can acknowledge each time they tell the truth and talk about how that builds trust between the two of you. If they're open with you about something they did or something they experienced or they were exposed to, your first response can be, "Wow, I really appreciate you telling me that." When you share those things with me, it really builds trust between us. I feel like I can really trust you to tell me what's going on in your life. That is really reinforcing for kids and for the honesty that you're building in your relationship.